Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Now we are going to start with the regulation of blood pressure. As we have already studied that blood pressure is of two types, systolic and diastolic. Now the regulation of blood pressure is very important to understand because in first year physiology this is one of the most important units that you will study in physiology. Apart from immunity and shock, this nervous regulation of circulation is one of the most important subjects that you will be taught in physiology. This is an important topic, so you should have a clear grasp of the different concepts that will be taught here in during this lecture. The objective of this lecture is to impart upon you the knowledge of sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous system and their role in circulation, the normal basal vasoconstrictor tone. Remember this word that I said, basal vasoconstrictor tone, about the vasomotor area, its location and function, about different methods of rapid nervous control of blood pressure, then about baroreceptors and other reflexes. Now, the blood flow control, as we studied in chapter 17, it was mainly local because of metabolites, because of oxygen lack or nutrient lack theory. So, this was mainly localized. But, however, the circulation has more global function. It has a generalized function. The blood pressure has to be maintained over a long period of time. So, redistribution of the blood flow to different areas of body by increasing or decreasing heart pumping is very important, and this is a part of rapid control of systemic arterial pressure. This is entirely controlled with the help of autonomic nervous system, that is sympathetic, which regulates the heart function, and parasympathetic, which importantly controls the circulation. So let's remove this footer. The parasympathetics, they are controlling the circulation, the vessels, and the sympathetic, it is basically regulating the heart function. As shown in this particular diagram, that the sympathetics and parasympathetics, they are both having an impact on the heart and blood vessels. The sympathetic chain, it supplies the blood vessels as well as the heart, whereas the vagus nerves, they also supply the heart as well as the blood vessels. However, the circulatory function, as described earlier, it is dependent upon the autonomic nervous system, as described earlier. Sympathetic nervous system causes vasoconstriction by activation of alpha adrenergic receptors on vascular smooth muscles with the help of norepinephrine. Norepinephrine is the neurotransmitter of the postganglionic fibers of sympathetic nervous system. It causes vasoconstriction of arterioles by increasing the vascular resistance and redistribution of blood flow. So they are basically constricting the vessels. As you all know that in sympathetic stimulation, the vessels, they are usually constricted because of alpha adrenergic stimulation. Now the vasoconstriction of veins, by increasing the circulatory blood volume, it increases the venous return, and then it causes an increased ventricular filling, and as there is more stretch on the heart, as we studied the Frank-Starling mechanism, it contracts more forcefully. The heart, it contracts more forcefully in order to eject more volume, which is known as the stroke volume. 70 ml is the normal stroke volume. So as the heart ejects more blood, the stroke volume, it increases. Then there is increase in the activity of the heart. The heart rate and contractility both increase with the help of this sympathetic nervous system. Now you've always seen that when a person is fighting or when a person is running, the blood flow to rest of the body is reduced, however to the face and the active muscles it is increased. How does this happen? This happens because of sympathetic vasodilator fibers. You must have acknowledged in your mind that whenever a person is furious, he is angry, his face turns red, and this fright, flight, or fight response, it always is because of sympathetic nervous system. Now what is happening, that these sympathetics, they channelize the blood, they cause vasoconstriction all over the body. However, they cause vasodilation wherever it is required, and this happens because of epinephrine released by the beta adrenergic receptors. At the beta adrenergic endings, epinephrine is released. Here it was norepinephrine. I shall color it red. So it was norepinephrine at alpha adrenergic, or rather I shall color it yellow. At alpha adrenergic, norepinephrine. At beta adrenergic, it is epinephrine, and these are vasodilators. So vasoconstriction is the major function of sympathetic nervous system. But if the examiner asks you how the face turns red when a person is angry, this is because of the vasodilator fibers, or they are also working under the sympathetic control, and the epinephrine is the neurotransmitter released at the beta adrenergic endings. Now this is the supply or the role of sympathetic nervous system. The sympathetics, they are causing vasoconstriction. The sympathetics, they are causing vasoconstriction at the arterioles and the venules. So overall effect is now all these sympathetics and parasympathetics, they are having a generalized effect on the blood vessels, and in the next slide we will see the effect of parasympathetic system. 75% of all parasympathetics are in vagus nerve. Vagus means vaga, large, mega. It's a large nerve. It extends from the brain up to the distal portions of the GIT. So vagus nerve is a large nerve, and it deals with so many systems. It deals with your special senses. It deals with your GIT. It deals with your respiratory system. It deals with your cardiovascular system. It passes to the entire thoracic and abdominal regions of the body, including the heart. The preganglionic nerves pass all the way to the organ. So preganglionic are large fibers. Like if I draw the comparison between preganglionic and postganglionic, you will just see that if I draw a preganglionic fiber, this is a preganglionic fiber from the brain up to the organ. And now if I draw the postganglionic fiber, it will be a small fiber like this. From the preganglionic, it will end just near the organ. Say this is the heart. Let me draw an organ here, any organ you can say. This is an organ, and whenever you are saying that this particular organ is supplied by vagus nerve, say for example this is a heart, so the postganglionic fibers, they are just within the vicinity of the heart, whereas the preganglionic fibers, they run all the way from the brain up to the vicinity or the proximity of that organ. So vagus nerve plays a little role in the regulation of circulation. It mainly controls the heart rate. The stimulation of vagus nerve results in a decrease in heart rate and contractility. Now this is the blood supply, this is the nervous supply of the vagus nerve. See how many organs it is supplying. It is going all the way to the urinary bladder, the detrusor muscle, the trigon. So the vagus nerve has a large function. It is a large nerve. The 10th nerve provides a large way through a way of supplying the autonomic nervous system, the parasympathetic stimulation to various organs. So now basically what is controlling all this? There is a vasomotor center located in the pons and medulla. The vasomotor center, it is located in the reticular substance of the medulla and lower pons. It transmits parasympathetic impulse through vagus nerve to heart and transmits sympathetic nerve through the spinal cord to almost all the blood vessels of the body. Hypothalamus is the principal area of control. It can exert powerful excitatory or inhibitory effects of vasomotor center. The motor cortex, the anterior and temporal lobe, can also excite the vasomotor center. Now, this is the anatomy of the vasomotor center. This is where it is located in the pons and medulla, and the vasomotor center has both vasodilator and vasoconstrictor areas. Specific areas of this ganglion, of this collection of neurons, of this nucleus, they are serving as the pressor or vasoconstrictor, and the other are the depressor or vasodilator centers. So vasoconstrictor, vasomotor area has both vasodilator and vasoconstrictor center, plus another center which is also which is called cardio accelerator center, which directly controls the heart. So vasoconstrictor area is directly located bilaterally in anteromedial portion of the medulla. The neurons secrete norepinephrine, which stimulates the vasoconstrictor neurons of sympathetic nervous system. This is self-explanatory. Whereas there is a vasodilator area which is located bilaterally in the anterolateral portion in lower medulla. That was anteromedial portion. This is anterolateral portion. Now, these inhibit the vasoconstrictor area and the vasoconstrictor activity. So, as I told you earlier, that there is a basal vasoconstrictor tone. Whenever you are sitting, like you are listening to this lecture, your vessels are constantly in a tense state, in a state of vasoconstriction. They are not completely relaxed. So, what happens when there is sympathetic stimulation? Whenever there is requirement of increased blood flow to your muscles, for example, in exercise, the vasodilator area, it dilates the veins and arterioles of the muscles. And what happens in response is that the vasodilator area, it causes the inhibition of vasoconstrictor area. What comes into this vasomotor center? It is the impulses that come to the sensory area. Sensory area is located bilaterally in the tractus solitarius. It is the name of a nucleus, the nucleus tractus solitarius of pons and upper medulla. The nucleus tractus solitarius receives the nerve signal from the vagus nerve as well as glossopharyngeal nerve. So ninth and 10th nerve, they are the nerves which receive and send the signal to the vasomotor centers. Now, their function is very important. We will just learn in a few slides that the vasoconstrictor and vasodilator areas, they are supplied by the impulses coming from the periphery through these vagus and glossopharyngeal nerve. They provide the reflex control of many circulatory functions. For example, the baroreceptor reflex. Baro means pressure, receptor means reception. So, getting the idea of blood pressure is through these baroreceptors. Now, this will be very important as you study later. So, this is the vasoconstrictor, cardio inhibitor, and the vasodilator area. So, under normal condition, vasomotor area transmits continuous signals to the sympathetic vasoconstrictor fibers, and at the rate of half to 2 impulses per second, they maintain a basal vasoconstrictor tone. Remember this thing, basal vasoconstrictor tone. This is very important. So sympathetics, they have a vasoconstrictor tone at the rest. So partial state of constriction in the blood vessel due to sympathetic tone is known as vasomotor tone. This is an important MCQ. You should remember it by heart. Now, what is the effect of these nerves on the heart by the vasomotor center? Either it can increase or decrease heart activity. The lateral portion of the vasomotor center sends sympathetic nerves to the heart, which increases the heart rate, contractility, and AV node conduction. This is self-explanatory. Whereas the medial portion of the vasomotor center via the vagus nerve to the heart, it decreases the heart rate and contractility. Now, this decrease in heart rate and contractility through the vagus nerve, it is known as the parasympathetic tone of the heart. So, heart is under the effect of parasympathetic nerve, it can relax. It is having a relaxed activity. Now, in general, adrenal medulla and vasodilator, adrenal medulla has a sympathetic activity and parasympathetic activity, close to sympathetic activity, because adrenal medulla also releases epinephrine and norepinephrine. As you can see here, that there is epinephrine and norepinephrine which are secreted by the adrenal medulla. This is in part stimulated with the help of sympathetic nerves. It acts directly on all blood vessels. These epinephrine and norepinephrine, they are released into the blood circulation, and through the blood circulation they can go to every other part of body. In some tissues, beta adrenergic stimulation by epinephrine causes vasodilation. However, usual effect is vasoconstriction. Now this is a very important phenomenon, vasovagal syncope. Whenever a person is emotionally disturbed, like a person is doing his normal daily routine activities, he suddenly receives a bad news, for example, death of a close relative. Disturbing thoughts to cortex called vasodilatory center cause the vasodilatory center in anterior hypothalamus to be stimulated, which causes vagal center of medulla to be stimulated. Now the vagus nerve transmits cardio inhibitory signals. Now this is very important. These cardio inhibitory signals, they immediately cause the fall of arterial pressure. As the arterial pressure falls, the person suddenly faints. Now this is also known as emotional fainting. Now let me write here that this is also known as emotional fainting. This is the cause of emotional fainting, that whenever the person receives a bad news, the cerebral cortex, it stimulates the vasodilator center, cardioinhibitory center, the arterial pressure, it falls, and the person immediately faints. Now the rapid control of arterial pressure is achieved with the help of uh, baroreceptors, chemoreceptors, CNS ischemic mechanism. All these will be done shortly. So these are the various mechanisms by which the body controls the blood pressure. This is the rapid control. Now the intermediate control, the capillary fluid shift mechanism is very important, and in long term control, which will be chapter 19, aldosterone and renin angiotensin system and its interaction with aldosterone is very important. So starting with the rapid control of the arterial blood pressure, it is the most important control of the blood pressure. It increases or decreases blood pressure whenever there is an increase in blood pressure. The baroreceptors, they send inhibitory signals, the vessels, they relax, the blood pressure is reduced, and vice versa happens when the blood pressure is rapidly reduced, for example in hemorrhage and shock. So reciprocal inhibition of the normal parasympathetic vagal inhibitory signals occur, whereas the vasoconstrictor and cardioaccelerator function of the sympathetic nervous system are stimulated. Now this is very important to understand that arteriolar constriction increases the TPR. TPR is total peripheral resistance, as we learned earlier in chapter 14 and 15. It increases the blood pressure, whereas the large vessel constriction causes increased circulatory blood volume and venous return. Whenever the veins, they contract, it increases the venous return, and when there is more venous return, or the blood returning to the heart becomes more, it dilates and it contracts in response. Like as you stretch a rubber band, as much as you stretch, it will come back. So the same is happening with the heart. Increased cardiac contractility occurs as a response of increased venous return, and this will increase in arterial pressure. The third effect of these baroreceptor or the direct sympathetic stimulation is heart rate increases up to 3 to 4 folds with the help of sympathetic nervous stimulation. So all these effects can double the arterial pressure. Now see, if a person is going in his car, he meets an accident. By fate, unfortunately, he bleeds and the blood pressure, it starts falling. So immediately the sympathetic nervous system, they will have these three effects: vasoconstrictor tone is increased, cardiac accelerator function, and direct stimulation of the heart. Now the vasoconstrictor tone is increased by both arteriolar and venous constriction, as well as the direct stimulation of heart increases the heart rate. So all these effects sum up in order to cause a double increase in the blood pressure. So for example, if it was reduced to 40 millimeters of mercury, it increased to 80 within 10 to 15 seconds. On the other hand, on contrary, if it is suddenly inhibited, it can decrease the pressure by half within 10 to 40 seconds. Now there are different mechanisms which increase the blood pressure during exercise. Local vasodilator mechanisms, as you studied in chapter 17, the local control of the blood pressure is occurring by vasodilator theory, metabolic theory, nutrient or oxygen lag theory, and there is elevation of blood pressure by the mechanisms that we have just learned. The motor areas of the brain, they become activated to cause exercise. Most of the reticular activating system of the brainstem is also activated. There is a greatly increased stimulation of the vasoconstrictor and cardio accelerator areas of the vasomotor center. Now what are the baroreceptors? They are spray type nerve endings located in the wall of large arterial vessels. And which are those walls? In the internal carotid artery just above the bifurcation of the carotid sinus, and in the wall of aortic arch. The stimulus is stretch. As you all know that pressure and stretch, that is related to the baroreceptor mechanism that we studied earlier. Carotid sinus transmits impulses through Herring's nerve to the glossopharyngeal nerve, and it transmits to the tractus solitarius in the medulla. Whereas the aortic signals, they are brought via the vagus nerves into the medulla. Now let's see an anatomical diagram. This is the presence of baroreceptors. One here, second here. As you can see, this is enlarged here. That these are the baroreceptors present in the carotid sinus. They transmit the impulses, and very interestingly, the chemoreceptors are also present in the same area. They sense the change in chemistry, chemical composition, like lack of oxygen, increase in carbon dioxide in blood. So they work side by side. However, the baroreceptors, they are solely responsible for the pressure changes. So in the arch of aorta, the vagus nerve takes it to the medulla. From the arch of aorta, vagus nerve. From the carotid sinus, the bifurcation of the carotid sinus, it is the Herring nerve, and Herring nerve is a branch of glossopharyngeal nerve. Then it takes it back to the medulla. Now this is how the baroreceptors are occurring. Now you should all remember from your earlier discussion that the mean arterial pressure is 100 millimeters of mercury, as we studied in the earlier portions of this unit, that the mean arterial pressure is 100 millimeters of mercury. Whenever there is rise in mean arterial pressure, it stretches the baroreceptors, which transmit the signal into CNS, and the feedback signals cause reverse effect. So if there is increased blood pressure, the net effect is decrease in that blood pressure. If the initial signal is decrease in blood pressure, the net effect is an increase in blood pressure. So the system is optimal at a normal range of arterial pressure. This is very important to remember. Now whenever a person is rising from sitting, the blood pools up in lower extremity. Sometimes you might have experienced, whenever you rise after a long sleep, whenever you rise from the bed, you suddenly feel your heart racing, there is lightheadedness, and you start having vertigo even. So this is because of a phenomenon known as orthostatic hypotension. What happens is that the blood pressure in the head and upper limbs suddenly decreases. The baroreceptors, normally, it's not very common that whenever you rise from the bed you suddenly tend to fall or faint. It happens very rarely. So normally what happens, the baroreceptors sense this change in pressure and respond rapidly to return it to normal. However, if this function of baroreceptor reflexes fail, in some diseased person, or rarely when you are very tired, when you are waking up after an exaggerated exhaustive sleep. So it results in dizziness and occasional fainting due to transient decreased blood pressure in the brain, and this process is known as orthostatic hypotension. Now you may get a question that a person rises up from bed, he is diabetic, he is hypertensive, and suddenly he starts having lightheadedness, he starts having racing heart. So the net effect is that he falls, and this fall is again a protective mechanism. Whenever the person will fall, what will happen? The blood flow towards his brain will increase, the effect of gravity will be eliminated. So the so it is again, his falling, his fainting is a protective mechanism. By the mercy of God, the blood is circulated back to the brain. So orthostatic hypotension has again a safety valve. Now, as you know that the baroreceptors, they have a normal rate of firing, and this is adjusted to a normal value over a prolonged period. However, you have seen that the patients of hypertension, अगर baroreceptors हमेशा काम करते तो कोई भी दुनिया में ब्लड प्रेशर हाइपरटेंशन का मरीज़ ना होता, but this does happen. So rapid rate of firing of baroreceptors, it adjusts to normal value of after a prolonged period. If the baroreceptors, they are not functioning properly, so they may readjust after 1 or 2 days. They can effectively control arterial pressure only during relatively short periods of time. लेकिन एक बंदे का अगर ब्लड प्रेशर कॉन्स्टेंटली 100 के बजाय 130, 140, 160 पे सेट हो गया है, तो बेरोसेप्टर्स अब कुछ भी नहीं कर सकते. दे कांट डू एनीथिंग. So they lose their importance in long-term regulation of mean arterial pressure. That is basically controlled or served by renal body fluid pressure mechanisms and associated aldosterone angiotensin renin mechanism, renin angiotensin aldosterone mechanism. So the best thing to study here is this particular diagram, which shows that whenever the baroreceptors they are firing, so they very let's go back to the previous one. So they have this important function of controlling it at a normal level. This is the normal level, 100 millimeters of mercury, and you can see that the maximum change, rate of change, the acceleration or deceleration, the maximum rate of change in the rate of firing is at the vicinity of the normal pressure. So from 80 to 160, you can see the slope of this graph is maximum. The magnitude, the scale, the change in acceleration or deceleration of these impulses, this is maximum over here. So the baroreceptors, if I say, they work the best near to the normal, the 100 mm benchmark, the 100 millimeter of mercury mean arterial pressure. So baroreceptors, they have the maximum rate of change in impulses is best or is maximum at 100 millimeters of mercury. At around 50, they almost have zero effect, and its effect rapidly reduces below 80 millimeters of mercury. So the baroreceptors, they work best around 100 millimeters of mercury. Now we will talk about the carotid and aortic chemoreceptors. As I told you, they are also located in the arch of aorta and the carotid bodies. They are having a close contact with the arterial blood. The pathway is same as baroreceptors, the herring nerves, the glossopharyngeal from the carotid bodies, and the vagus nerve from the aortic body. They detect the low pressure, which causes a reduction in oxygen and a build-up of carbon dioxide as well as hydrogen ions. So they send the signals to the vasomotor center, which causes excitement, which is excited, and it increases the arterial blood pressure. So till 80 it was baroreceptor. Now below 80 their chemoreceptors come into play. Now this is very important to remember that the chemoreceptors are not stimulated until pressure falls below 80 millimeters of mercury. Let me capitalize this. So above 80 it was baroreceptors, below 80 as it reaches 80 it comes the role of chemoreceptors. Now there are other receptors as well. Atrial and pulmonary artery low pressure receptors are also present. The stimulation is stretch. The receptors, they are spray type nerve endings. They function to minimize arterial pressure changes in response to changes in blood volume. The pathway is similar to the baroreceptors. They elicit reflexes parallel to the baroreceptor reflexes to make the total system more potent. Now there is another reflex known as volume reflex. Whenever there is an increase in blood pressure, it directly stimulates the atria. It causes reflex dilatation of the afferent arterioles in the kidneys, and it increases in the filtration of fluid into the kidney tubules. Then there is also a parallel decrease in the secretion of ADH, antidiuretic hormone, by the hypothalamus, which both effects come side by side, this effect and this effect, in order to reduction of blood supply volume and ultimately BP, blood pressure. Now there is a very strange reflex known as Bainbridge reflex. Whenever there is an increase in arterial blood pressure, it causes a direct stretch of the SA node, which increases the heart rate. So in addition to the increased blood pressure, the heart rate also increases. The atrial stretch receptors, they transmit the signal to the middle of the brain, and sympathetic stimulation is stimulated, preventing the damming of blood in veins, atria and pulmonary circulation. Then we have a CNS ischemic response. We talked about baroreceptors at 180 पे आपके chemoreceptors activate हो रहे थे, and when the pressure approaches levels below 60 millimeters of mercury, this is the last ditch stand. आखिरी चीज़ जो आपकी बॉडी को बचाने की कोशिश करती है. Whenever there is a reduction in the blood pressure markedly below 80 millimeters of mercury, it causes reduced blood supply to the brain as well, resulting in ischemia of the brain. The carbon dioxide and acidic substances, they accumulate and they cause profound excitement of the medullary vasoconstrictor area. This is the most powerful response of all the activators of the sympathetic vasoconstrictors. Now all the sympathetic systems, they will come into play and they will cause a very strong vasoconstriction. Maximum of the response is reached. The topmost response is reached at 15 to 20 millimeter mercury, which is dangerously close to the lethal state. After this, the person is not able to survive. So if the blood pressure falls to 15 to 20 millimeters of mercury, all the power, all the forces, all the strength is given to the CNS ischemic response. Now there is an other thing, Cushing's reaction. This is different from Cushing's disease or Cushing syndrome. Whenever the blood pressure is reduced, normally what happens, blood pressure is more than the CSF pressure, so the arteries, they are kept patent, and they keep on supplying the brain. However, when there is reduction in the blood pressure, the CSF pressure, it overdrives it suppresses the veins and arteries because of the increased CSF pressure as compared to the blood pressure. So it again excites the CNS ischemic response, resulting in a reflex increase in blood pressure, thus aiding the body to finally have some resistance against death. So Cushing's reaction is when the CSF pressure becomes more than the pressure in the arteries and veins supplying to the brain. Additional mechanisms, abdominal compression reflex, the sympathetic stimulation or vasoconstriction is usually accompanied by skeletal nerves and skeletal muscle stimulation. The abdominal muscles are stimulated. They also contract, translocating the blood from the abdominal reservoirs towards the heart. So they effectively stimulate the heart, or keep giving their input in order to survive, in order to enable the body to survive, resulting in an increase in cardiac output. Similarly, there is a muscular response. Whenever there is a loss of blood pressure, the skeletal muscles, they give away their blood. However, in exercise, They translocate significant amounts from peripheral vessels into the heart and lung, increasing the cardiac output up to 7 times during exercise. The arterial pressure it rises by 20 to 60%. That's all from this chapter. Thank you very much for listening carefully. Now, this is a very important chapter. The test will be held soon, so I hope that all of you will study carefully. Thank you very much.